The following program is a UNC Charlotte production.
Welcome inside UNC Charlotte. From UNC Charlotte Center City, we'll take a look at how this stunning new presence in Uptown has taken hold in this its first academic year. And have you heard? A certain presidential nominating convention is coming to town. The university is already playing a big role in helping Charlotte focus on this experience in our democracy. We profile a university researcher who is the recipient of one of UNC Charlotte's top honors, the First Citizens Bank Scholars Medal Award. And we visit a program that's on the fast track to leadership in an exciting worldwide industry. It's UNC Charlotte's motorsports program. This and more inside UNC Charlotte. UNC Charlotte has enjoyed an uptown presence for years, but the start of the 2011-12 academic year brought a major milestone with the opening of this addition to the cityscape. As UNC Charlotte Center City marks its first year, we look at the impact this place has made on our students, our city, and the Charlotte region.
Yeah, this is not actually the first time for UNC Charlotte and Center City. Many people know that we had the leased facility over in the old Mint Museum space, but as the Chancellor likes to point out, we actually started. The university started here in 1946, and Bonnie Cohen started classes for veterans returning from World War II in the old Central High School, which is just a couple blocks from here where Central Piedmont is now. Chancellor Woodward and the current Chancellor Phil Dubois was provost in those days. Had a vision to return to Center City with a full presence, and starting all the way back in 2005 was when Chancellor Woodward was able to make a deal to get the property here, and then subsequent to that, when Erskine Bowles was president of the UNC system, was able to do the financing to get the money to build the building. I think everyone in those days, right through the current time, recognizes the need for us to be fully engaged in the city, to be here, to be part of Charlotte, and for Charlotte to be part of the university. And that's our mission at UNC Charlotte Center City. You're here in Center City so you can get folks from the big businesses, from the banks, from the energy companies, but also from the architecture firms, from the cultural organizations, and the civic groups to come. It's just so much easier for them to come here. They can walk over. So it's an opportunity for students to see those people in class, but then also to get the chance to be an intern someplace, or to even just work for a day, to volunteer with one of the civic groups here in the community, here in First Ward.
I am currently enrolled in the paralegal certification program. It's part of the extended ed that is offered here at UNC Charlotte. I think the reason it's important to have it in this building is because it is in the center of Charlotte. You get to see the city as you come in. I'm coming from Hickory twice a week, so it's very convenient. It's off of Highway 16 and 77. All the technology is here. Everything is new. The computer labs are there for you with computers already ready to go. You don't have to worry about bringing a laptop and everything that you need for taking notes because it's there. One of my concerns coming to a larger city from somewhere like Hickory was the fact that I was going to be walking in my car late at night by myself. And we have plenty of security guards downstairs. They're willing to walk with us and watch out for us. And plus, I just really like the community feeling that comes with my peers.
Right now I'm in the Master's of Business Administration program, concentrating in Applied Investment Management. I'm scheduled to graduate in June of this year, and my involvement has been basically doing whatever I can to promote the school and the program. The convenience of being able to either walk or drive to the location is excellent. And plus it gives me the feeling that UNC Charlotte has committed themselves to the business community. They're not just renting a space and providing a location for students to come take a class. They've actually set a foundation for something that we can call our own. I have made or forged many networking friendships here, both with classmates, professors, and through various events that I've attended at the Center City building. I was proud when they initially made the announcement that it was going to be constructed And I was even prouder to be able to be the first class, or one of the first classes to attend here.
Just coming from Clemson, I entertained the idea of doing city planning there, but there's not really an urban context for that. So the idea that I could come here and literally be ingrained in the fabric of the city while I'm studying it was really appealing. As the city starts to grow out and as the university area comes more into the city, it really has the ability to establish itself as a place in the city, a place of dominance. So that's a really neat thing. I think that it's been the best move that I could possibly make. And studying at this location in this building gets me a lot. It gets me firsthand access to everything that's going on in the city. Everything's literally in our backyard. And I think that a cool thing about it is that we've already made the Center City building a place. We're kind of making a splash in Uptown. We're announcing that urban design is here. It's a fairly new program, and so this building, even the way it looks from the outside, helps us do that, and it gives us somewhere cool to utilize to draw attention to ideas that are important to us.
From the very minute we opened, we actually, when we moved in, we started having events before we started having classes. There was so much demand, people like coming here. But once they're here, they see the value of it, they see these connections, that actually it's a tangible thing that makes it all happen. Back in last spring, we had a community day event. We just invited people to come in and experience things we had. We had a brass band, we had dancers, we had other musicians, painters, where all the artists of whatever type of artist they were had some connection to the university. They were on the faculty, they were part-time, they were graduates, and we had several hundred people from the community come in, almost everybody just walking. So they truly were local folks coming in and experiencing the university for the first time. At least once a week, something is open to the public where people come in to see a movie, hear a talk, and we're only going to do more of that. And then the other thing is to really demonstrate the university's urban awareness, to be this urban research university, to do that in the urban setting. That's part of that initial mission statement that was written back in 2007. Talked about gateway, environmental sustainability, and urban awareness and context. That's still our mission, and we live that every day, and we see the fruits of it every day. As more people come in, more people are exposed to things we do at UNC Charlotte.
As Charlotte prepares to host its first ever presidential nominating convention, UNC Charlotte has already staked its claim to what promises to be the largest event in our region's history. An extensive series of public activities combined with an array of classroom content and internships for students, it's all aimed at making the most of this once-in-a-lifetime experience in democracy. Start with the web to get a feel of the scope of how the university has set its sights on getting the most out of what's coming Charlotte's way.
I see this as a great opportunity to help students and the community learn about what we do to select presidents, what it takes to have a city manage an event like this.
Professor Eric Heberlig is one of the organizers of the 49er Democracy Experience. That's the packaging for the series of campus and community events, additions to the curriculum, a host of internship opportunities, and even the use of university facilities, all in the name of capitalizing on the nominating convention.
We as a university were well positioned to help communicate, interpret to the public what's going on, why, what this means for the city, both in the short term and the long term. That we had expertise across a variety of fields that could really expand the community's understanding of what was going on in Charlotte.
Classes across the disciplines have added democracy-related events to their curricula, many well outside Heberlig's field of political science.
My favorite example is this being a green convention. Well, what exactly does it mean to have a green convention? What are the engineering aspects, the architectural aspects? That certainly shapes our understanding beyond just what it means to select a president.
Community and business leaders working to make the convention a success appear to be looking beyond partisan politics to the benefits of Charlotte's appearance on its biggest stage.
That event is going to bring the eyes of the world upon us. There's still a lot of people that don't know Charlotte. There are a lot of people that know of Charlotte but don't have a clear perception, not having been here perhaps. That's going to change for lots of people.
Then Siemens opened a gas turbine factory in Charlotte and formed a partnership.
2012 national political news coverage began the day after the President's State of the Union address, when Charlotte was examined as a microcosm of the American economy, and the university's chief academic officer was a part of it, discussing the role of higher education in our region's recovery.
Manufacturing roots, but I think what we're seeing now is a different kind of manufacturing. We're looking at advanced manufacturing. And
Joan Lorden says the 49er democracy experience is strengthening the ties between the university and Charlotte.
For the students, you know, it's an opportunity of a lifetime to see democracy in action and to see it with a front row seat. It's wonderful to have an opportunity for the community to see both our students and our faculty and to begin to appreciate the intellectual energy that they bring to the city.
49er students have already been working hands-on behind the scenes, interns in places like the Democratic National Convention Committee's housing office.
The people who I am working with in this internship are doing the best job they can to make everything fall out, you know, as good as it can be. And so because of that, every job has so many details to it, so detail-oriented that you wouldn't think would exist. But it's definitely something for everybody to do in the internship. There's never a moment where you're like, what do I do now? Because it's always busy. It's getting hectic, especially as time goes on closer to the convention.
Law school is next, Anna says, and the experience this year will give her an edge throughout her career.
I've met a lot of amazing people who have had amazing opportunities through their lifetime, and it all started from an internship like the Democratic National Convention Committee internship or an internship in the White House. And they've moved up, and that's something that I look up to, I admire, and I want to follow those footsteps, move up the same way they did.
UNC Charlotte Communication Studies students posted a YouTube account of a lecture by renowned political scientist George Edwards. The university has partnered with the prestigious Washington Center in Educational Opportunities, along with fellow colleges and universities in the region in many aspects of convention-related programming. A speakers series, for instance, hosted on several campuses, aimed at broad exposure to the thoughts and ideas that have never been more important.
To get bipartisan support.
But I think it's also something about Charlotte that this has always been a kind of can-do city where when there are opportunities, people get together and focus on making the most of them. And I think this is a good example of higher ed embodying that characteristic of the city of Charlotte.
When it's all over, organizers hope that the 49er democracy experience will have left its mark on the Charlotte region for years to come.
The students who are here now and who had at least a passing interest in the convention would say, oh yeah, I had the opportunity to do some things along with the convention, and the university helped make that happen. I think for the Charlotte community, I would want them to say, oh, you know, the university had some speakers, you know, they had some forums, they did things that help us understand what was happening and why. They gave us some access to the convention that we wouldn't have had just sitting at home watching it happen on our television. That in both senses, we would be seen as active contributors to the process of not helping the convention happen per se, but helping the community engage with the convention.
One of UNC Charlotte's top honors is the First Citizens Bank Scholars Medal Award, given each year to a faculty member at the top of his or her field, leaders in scholarship and intellectual inquiry. Inside UNC Charlotte's Lisa Patterson profiles this year's recipient, anthropology professor Jonathan Marks.
Meet Professor of Anthropology and recipient of the First Citizens Bank Scholars Medal, Jonathan Marks.
So as a biological anthropologist, the questions that we ask are questions about who we are, where we came from. which are very highly culturally inflected, very political issues. Why? Because who we are, where we came from, is something that everybody's interested in. All cultures are interested in that. And so we face some very interesting challenges. Well, my book, What It Means to Be 98% Chimpanzee, is basically about how we understand genetic knowledge in the context of where we fit in the great panoply of nature. And of course, it's a widely known factoid that we are 98% genetically identical to chimpanzees. The bad news about that is that genetics isn't particularly good at showing how different we are from chimpanzees. For example, we walk upright, chimpanzees walk on their knuckles, we have big brains, we speak. Genetics, as it turns out, especially DNA sequence, is not really transparent in its meaning. And its meaning is actually very esoteric. If you were to compare the DNA sequences of a human and a daffodil, you would find that they match at least 1 out of every 4 places. Okay? Except we're obviously not 1/4 daffodil. So the take-home lesson is that we don't really know exactly what DNA comparisons mean, and their meaning has to be forcibly extracted from their data.
John's really an interesting scholar because he looks not just at the science of anthropology, but he looks at anthropology as science. He's looking at the field of anthropology and how it constructed itself, its biases and its achievements. He also looks at science as an anthropological discipline. John, with his background in science, after all, he has a degree in genetics and 2 degrees in anthropology, has credibility with the scientists. He can talk the talk with cleverness, with wit, in an engaging way, very self-effacing, yet powerful and focused. John asks tough questions. He can succeed at doing this because he has such a wonderfully rich, self-effacing sense of humor, wonderful personality.
He has certainly been accused of being controversial. I think part of that is that he's willing to critique any scholar at any level. He is willing to critique people in quite a bold and perhaps one might say impolite way. But he pushes back. He pushes back against what he feels are mistaken overemphases on biology and genetics to explain the human experience, for example.
Marks tackles the history and social impacts of scientific enterprise in his book titled Why I Am Not a Scientist.
Obviously, human groups are different from one another. That's a trivial observation. The question is, how do human groups differ from one another? And anthropologists have been studying that for 150 years. And we've discovered that the commonsensical idea of race, namely that humans come naturally packaged into a fairly small number of fairly discrete kinds of people, is simply false. That's not the way the human species comes. The natural packages of the human species are local biocultural groups. And human groups integrate into one another, and there's also far more variation within any group than there is between groups. So the picture that we're getting is that the idea of race, again, that humans come in relatively few flavors, is a false theory. So race isn't a question of human difference. Race is a theory of meaningful difference. You have to decide what kinds of differences matter and how much of them to take into consideration as you build a taxonomy of the human species. There are this number of subspecies of humans, there are these categories of people, and based on these criteria, I'm going to put these 2 people into different categories, as opposed to being simply slight variants of one category. That decision to make 2 people 2 categories instead of 1 category is very much a cultural decision. And that's why we say human diversity is biocultural.
I would say that one of the things that most distinguishes John is his commitment to understanding the social consequences and the societal consequences of science and the historical processes of discovery.
With his ability to bridge the humanities and the sciences, Marks illuminates some of the most central debates of our time.
Well, I think anthropology is relevant to the modern world in many obvious ways. I mean, the big issues in the world today are cultural. You know, how do we as a world face 8 billion people, increasing consumption, decrease in natural resources? How do we make that work as not just a civilization, but as a cluster of civilizations? Those are cultural issues, and those are fundamentally anthropological issues.
When it comes to university endeavors that are woven into the life and culture of our region, UNC Charlotte's motorsports program is a given. As motorsports programs grow at many universities, UNC Charlotte holds the special combination of outstanding facilities, particularly bright students and faculty, and a growing reach.
At UNC Charlotte, although the program said it is motorsports and automotive engineering, we try to emphasize on the motorsports aspect of this program. And our program is distinct in a way that we try to give our students a very hands-on approach. Like, say for example, our student starts in their sophomore year with Motorsports Clinic 1, where we make the students familiar with different trades of the tool, like welding, crafting, sheet metal, NC milling, and all those types of things. Now, in addition to that, I think our biggest strength is we are able to attend high school graduates who are high school students who have an intent knack for racing themselves. A number of our students are racers, and we encourage them in participating in different race competitions.
My name's Joey Coulter. I drive the number 22 truck in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series for Richard Childress Racing, and I'm a junior at UNC Charlotte Mechanical Engineering Motorsports program. When I got out of high school, I was already racing full-time and knew that if I couldn't drive, I wanted to work on race cars or do something in racing. And there's a lot of good engineering colleges out there, obviously, but UNC Charlotte had a motorsports program, and I said if I can go to college and get a degree to work on race cars, then that's where I'm headed. One of the coolest things that I've run into here is how helpful the professors are when it comes to anything, really just understanding the material. There's no dumb question. I haven't been in a single class where I've been afraid to raise my hand and ask a question, even if I knew it wasn't the best question ever.
I've met several people that have studied elsewhere or around the world, and where they say, oh yeah, we have such a large school and they have so many students, but here really the graduate school is still relatively a low amount of students. But that's great. I find it great because the professors know you on a first name basis, not that you have to try to stand in line to visit them on a Tuesday at 3 o'clock. So me and Mesba in particular, I mean, we meet several times a week for half an hour or more. We're working on the goals that we're trying to achieve. So it's not that any of the graduate students are numbers or the faculty are off distant. You never see them. We're all around and we're all interacting every day.
We do have excellent faculty. We've got guys like David George, who's been a powertrains guy designing engines for Top Fuel drag racing, NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One. I mean, he really knows his stuff. We've got Dr. Uden, who's computational fluid dynamics, and he's been hired by race teams all over the world. The bottom line is that Charlotte is the center of racing in North America, so that the governor of the state of North Carolina decided that we should fund a motorsports program at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. And the reason is because this is where all the jobs are. There's a $6 billion industry around here. Within an hour and a half, you've got 90 NASCAR teams. So this is where the industry is, this is where the suppliers are, this is where the teams are, this is where the jobs are. And the jobs are for mechanical engineers.
Growing up, I was always interested in motorsports. I watched NASCAR with my family. I was a big fan. I'm actually from New Jersey, and I found out about UNC Charlotte when me and my family would come down here for the races down at Charlotte Motor Speedway for the Coca-Cola 600, and I realized, early on that I was interested in math and I like to figure out how things worked. So I wanted to be mechanical engineering, and since I'm interested in motorsports, I decided motorsports engineering, and Charlotte was the perfect place to go for that. And the students get a really good idea of what it's like out in the real world, even if you don't have any experience, working at a race team. Through the Formula SAE programs and the Baja program, you're allowed to get involved with them and actually design the car from the bottom up using the classes, like the information and knowledge you learn in the classes, and you're able to apply it to them, and you're able to work with other students doing different sections of the car. So for example, I'm doing the drivetrain system for our senior design project. I have to work with the students that are on the aero team and the students that are on the engine team to ensure all of our stuff is going to integrate correctly when we build the car. So that's analogous to what it's like in the real world, because whatever I work on has to make sure it fits with what everyone else is working on.
As of today, we have graduated about 20 master students and about 3 PhDs. And we are hoping to grow the program even further in years to come.
Thanks for joining us. You can see more on the university website, and all of our segments are on YouTube. In the meantime, we'll see you next time inside UNC Charlotte.